For the first 2 years of my PhD, I could not explain what my thesis was about. I was in the lab all day, every day. I was reading papers, I was writing things, I was doing more, studying more, thinking maybe I'm not doing enough, therefore I should be doing more for something to click. I looked at students in other labs who seemed to already have their direction locked in, who already had preliminary data, who already knew what figure 1 was going to be, and I thought something is wrong with me. I picked the wrong project, maybe I'm not cut out for this. But I was wrong about all of it. And if you're in that season right now, you are probably wrong about all of it too. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Lydia Park, doing my PhD in biomedical engineering, NSF grant awardee, current UVA postdoc. And today I want to give you the 4 keys I wish someone had handed me in year 1, because the slow start is the season that makes most PhD students quit. And it is the exact season you cannot afford to quit in. Welcome to Kingdom-Minded PhD Scientists. Here's the first key, and it reframes everything that comes after. The slow start is not the bench, it is the training ground. Picture a soccer player. There is a bench where you sit in a clean kit and wait for the coach to call your name. You watch the game happen to other people. You count the minutes. And there's a training ground where you are drilling in the mud before anyone is watching, building the legs that will carry you when you finally step on the pitch. The bench is where you wait to be picked, but the training ground is where you become worth picking. The slow start is the training ground, and I need you to sit with that because it changes what the silence means. The bench is passive. You hope your name gets called. The training ground is active. You are being built. You're learning things you do not yet know you need. And the reason you cannot see your progress is not because progress isn't happening. It is because the progress is happening inside you, not on your CV. Here's what the greatest in the world understand about the training ground. Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, the best to ever do it, they will tell you they practice like a beginner every single day. Not because they forgot how to play, because the foundation is never finished. If the people at the very top still train like it's day 1, then the slow start is not something beneath you. It's the exact thing the greatest ever refused to skip. James chapter 1 says it's sharper than I can. Consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds, because the testing of your faith produces perseverance, and perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Notice what it does not say. It doesn't say trials produce publications. It doesn't say perseverance produces a faster timeline. It says perseverance produces completeness. You become mature. You become equipped. You become the person who can actually carry the weight of what's coming next. And here's the part that only makes sense in hindsight. Once your research picks up pace, once you're publishing, writing grants, defending preliminary results, you will not have time to learn the foundations, the reading skills, the field protocols that teach you what the successful ones can't, the scattered first attempts at writing that slowly teach you how to think on paper. That capacity only gets built in the slow season. So when you look at your first year or your first 18 months and you see nothing to show for it, you're measuring the wrong output. The output of the training ground is not a paper or a visible results. The output of the training ground is a player who will eventually win the match. And that is where the real resistance comes from. Let me show you something nobody explains. The training ground is not just building your skills. It is building a new identity, and your brain will fight that the whole way. Here is how identity actually works. If you see yourself one way, you are already premeditating without even realizing it, how you're going to act. You decide your next move based on who you think you are. So it's always extra work and extra effort for you to act different in accordance to how you see yourself. So the student who believes I'm behind or I'm not cut out for this has already written the ending. Every action just runs the mental script the identity handed it. That is why real change is so hard. To act like a capable researcher while you still feel like a fraud is extra work every single time. You're working against your own self-image, and that takes energy your brain does not want to spend. Your brain and your body love homeostasis. They love staying the same. They love predictability. Even when your life is hard, if it's a familiar hard, part of you will choose it over an unfamiliar better. A familiar hell feels safer than an unfamiliar heaven. How crazy is that? The unknown is scarier than the pain you already know. So when the slow start feels like friction, understand what that friction actually is. It does not prove you picked the wrong project. It is the cost of becoming someone new. The old you, the one who felt behind, is fighting to keep you exactly where you are. That person is not behind. That person is being built, and the discomfort you feel means you are growing down. There is a word for this in nature: gravitropic growth. Before a plant ever breaks the surface and grows up toward the sun, it first sends its roots down into the dark. You have to grow down before you grow up. So in the slow start, your certainty goes down, your confidence goes down. You get more uncertain before you get more sure. And that feels like failure, but it is the opposite. Certainty is not something you start with. It is something you build, and you build it with uncertainty. Key 2, and this is the one that separates the students who finish from the students who don't. Stay consistent when it is not comfortable. I know that sounds obvious, but watch how it actually breaks down inside a PhD. And remember what we just said about your brain. If your body's wired to keep you the same, consistency is the tool that overrides it. Consistency is how you cast a vote for the new identity before you believe it yet. Slow starts are inherently public. Your advisor sees your updates, your committee sees reports, your lab mates see your bench. And when you have nothing to show, the silence can get loud. People start asking questions, sometimes out of care, sometimes out of doubt. And the temptation is to interpret their questions as confirmations that you are failing. Here's the biggest mistake I see PhD students make. They make their consistency conditional on seeing results. They think, once I get preliminary data, I'll write more consistently. Once I see my project working, I'll put in the extra hours. Once I feel confident, I'll share my work. They wait for the evidence to justify the effort. But that is backwards. Results are conditional on your consistency. Your consistency cannot be conditional on results. Galatians chapter 6 says, "Do not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time you will reap a harvest if you do not give up." Notice the structure. The harvest is not the condition for continuing. Continuing is the condition for the harvest. If you do not give up, that is the hinge. Not if your advisor validates you. Not if the experiment, works this month. Not if you feel like it. If you do not give up. So what does this look like on a Tuesday morning when nothing is working? It means you show up to the lab and run your adjusted protocol even though your last 3 attempts have failed. It means you write 300 words of the draft even though they might get cut. It means you send the update to your advisor even though there is nothing exciting to report. You do the work before the work feels worth doing. That is consistency, and consistency is not a personality trait. It's a decision you make before the results give you a reason to. Key 3, and this is the one most students waste entirely because they're too busy being anxious about the silence to use it. Sharpen your skills during the silence. Here's a hard truth that most PhD students never hear stated plainly. Your level of success will not exceed your skill level. You cannot defend a thesis you do not have the writing ability to articulate. You cannot run an analysis you do not have the computational skills to execute. You cannot land a postdoc or an industry role without the portfolio skills that role requires. And right now, in this slow start, you have the one thing you will never have again: time to close the gap. I mean this concretely, not invest in yourself as a vague aspiration per se, but I mean like specific, nameable skill gaps that you can close this semester. If you cannot explain your thesis in 5 sentences, that's a narrative skill gap. Build it now. Write those 5 sentences. Rewrite them again and again. Test them on someone outside your field. Do it this week, not after you have more data. If you've never opened a terminal and written a script to automate part of your workflow, that's a computational skill gap. You have time right now. You will not have time when you're writing 3 chapters and prepping for defense. If you've never written a specific aims page or read a funded grant in your field or reverse engineered why a successful proposal worked, that's a strategic skill gap. And closing it now before you need it is the difference between scrambling for funding in year 4 and walking into the application with a draft already built. The silence feels empty, but the silence is an open door, not to more reading without a question, to deliberate skill development on the exact things that will determine your ceiling later. Your career will not exceed your skill level. So raise the skill level while the room is quiet enough to learn. And key 4, this is the one that helped me when nothing else did. Stand on the promises when you cannot see progress. Here's a temptation of the slow start. You start measuring your calling by your circumstances. You look at your results and conclude, this is not working. You look at your timeline and conclude, I am behind. You look at your bank account, your relationships, your mental health, and you build a case that maybe God forgot, that the calling was never real, that you should cut your losses now before it gets worse. I know that case because I built it myself in year 2. And every piece of evidence I used was real. The experiments were failing. The funding wasn't there. The direction was unclear. None of that was made up. But here's what I did not understand then. Work is a two-sided coin. During the slow start, the work may not look like it is working for you. Your experiments aren't producing publishable data. Your reading isn't connecting to a clear thesis. Your daily effort isn't translating into visible output. And from where you are standing, it looks like the investment is failing. But the coin has another side. The work is working on you. It is building your discernment. It's refining your ability to think under pressure. It's teaching you how to persist without applause, how to evaluate without panicking, how to hold a direction when nobody around you confirms it. Think about Joseph. Sold by his brothers, falsely accused, he was left in a prison for years after he had already demonstrated his gift. If Joseph measured God's faithfulness by his circumstances, he would have concluded the plan failed in Genesis chapter 39. But it didn't fail. The pit and the prison were the two sides of the coin. The work was not yet working for Joseph, but it was building the man who would run Egypt's entire economy 2 chapters later. Habakkuk 2:3 says, the vision awaits an appointed time. It hastens to the end. It will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. Your timeline is not behind. It isn't early, but it's appointed. And your job in the slow start is not to see the harvest. It's to stay in the field long enough for the coin to flip. Because this is a principle of life. You reap what you sow, not when you sow. Some seeds sprout now, some sprout later, and some stay buried the longest and come up as the biggest fruit of all. The seed you're planting in this slow, quiet season, the one that looks like it is doing nothing in the dark, may be the one that feeds you for the rest of your career. Do not dig it up early just because you can't see it yet. So let me make this practical because I don't want you to leave this video feeling inspired and then sit down tomorrow and do the same thing you did yesterday. This week, I want you to do 4 things, one for each key. First, rename the season. And this is a mindset trick. Remember, your identity decides your actions before you even reach for them. So if you keep calling yourself stuck, you have already pre-decided how a stuck person acts. Stop calling it being stuck. Stop calling it falling behind. Call it what it is. You are on the training ground. Say it out loud if you have to, and put it on your monitor. The name you give the season is the name you give yourself in it. Second, make one commitment that's not conditional on results. One thing you'll do every single day this week, regardless of whether it feels productive. Writing for 30 minutes, or read one paper with a specific question. Show up to the lab and run the next step. Make the commitment before Monday and keep it whether the week goes well or not. That is you overriding homeostasis on purpose. Third, name one skill gap before you can close before the semester ends. Just one skill gap, the narrative gap or the computational gap, the grant writing gap. Pick the one your future self will need most and start this week. And lastly, find the promise you're standing on. Open up your Bible. Find the verse that speaks directly to the season you're in. Write it somewhere you'll see it daily. And when the doubt comes, and it will come, don't argue with the doubt. Just reread the promise because the God we serve is a faithful Father. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are not evidence that the calling was a mistake. You are simply on the training ground. And the training ground is the only place where the person who will eventually write the thesis, defend your dissertation, and walk across that stage actually gets built. The discomfort you feel is not the wrong project. It's you growing down before you grow up. Don't walk off the ground, and that is building you. This is exactly where you are right now. If you're in the slow start and you need to know whether your daily work is actually building your thesis or just filling your hours, comment audit and I'll send you the PhD false work audit. It takes about 10 minutes and it will show you this week what is thesis critical and what is just noise dressed up as effort. Subscribe to the channel and share this with a PhD friend who needs to hear it today. Kingdom Minded PhD Scientist is on a mission to lift up God's name in academia and ungatekeep the hidden curriculum, and I need your help in doing so. See you in the next one. Stay strategic and stay rooted.